Live from the Julius Arthur Leonard Studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, it's TC at Home, presented by Theater Charlotte. Hello, everyone. It's Chris Timmons again. Welcome back to another edition of TC at Home, an in-depth look at Quarantine the Musical. We've got a great show for you tonight. We have a world premiere, our first look at Quarantine the Musical, with our guests Vito Abate and Jenn Grabenstetter. If you have missed any of our previous episodes, you can find those on our Facebook page, and also you can search for them on YouTube. We had a great discussion last week with our production team of Quarantine the Musical. We spoke with Tim Parati, Hallie Hutchison-Hauk, Laz, and Gordon Olson. So if you are interested at all in the performing arts, if you are graduating during this time and are sort of wondering what it looks like out there, I encourage you to go back and check out that episode. We had a great discussion. It's a little over an hour, but it's worth your time. So check that out. But we're going to dive right into it. So I'm going to bring in our first guest today, Mr. Vito Abate. Hi, Vito.
Hello, Chris.
How you doing?
I'm good. I was just thinking, boy, if they want to learn something, they should look at last week's. But tonight, I don't think anyone's going to learn anything. But maybe we'll have some fun.
Absolutely, I'm excited. So I can't wait to see what you guys put together during. But I wanted to bring you on first because you had been. How long had you lived in Charlotte?
Like 15 years.
15 years. Mm-hmm. And so, and just recently, so about a year ago, or I think it's maybe been a little over a year ago now, mm-hmm. You moved to Boston. So I just kind of wanted to get everybody sort of caught up who maybe sort of missed that transition or whatever. And of course, the theater community has been so strange because of everything that's happened lately. But just wanted to sort of get your sort of the quick Cliff Notes version of your transition to Boston.
Ron, Phoebe, and I moved here over a year ago. We're actually in Greater Boston, in the city of Waltham. It's 1 year later. And it's a strange time to, I think, be anywhere, quite frankly. What else can I tell you?
Well, I'm sort of interested to know, and it's different because of, we're sort of in this community, and I guess I was just curious to know what it's like as far as the theater community in Boston right now, or in that area. What are you seeing from groups out there right now? Obviously live performances are a while away for everybody, but I was just curious if you could sort of give us some insight as to what's happening out there.
Honestly, I don't know that it's much different than what's happening in Charlotte and really all over the place. Similar to what you're doing, people are trying to come up with ways to do sort of alternative programming. There aren't shows are postponed. I was supposed to direct Freaky Friday the Musical to go up in November. That's been put off a year. Nothing's really like on the schedule for sure, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to bring in our second guest of the evening, Jenn Grabenstetter. Hi, Jenn.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And this is a bit of a reunion. As I thought about this, you guys were together in the Addams Family, but then also Vito, I think, reminded me that Sorted Lives was in there as well. And
Sorted Lives, Christmas Carol, and Addams Family. We go way back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of being directed by Vito twice with Christmas Carol and Sorted Lives, and then we shared the stage in Addams Family. So gotten to know him both as a fellow actor and also as a director, and love him in all roles.
Back at the baby. Yeah, Jenn is great to work with. Extremely versatile. She can go from drunken grandma to Mrs. Cratchit to kind of slutty singer. So
I think versatile within sort of a range of like lush to lush with tattoos. That seems to be the range, which I didn't see coming personally. So you got to take what will come your way. But one of my family, actually, I should tell you, Vito, my family comes to see every show I'm ever in. They're wonderful supporters, but a family favorite is Drunk Grandma. They just can't get enough of the fact that I played an old lady in a crazy white wig who was falling down drunk during Christmas Carol. Despite the fact that I was also Mrs. Cratchit, which was a much more role, they really locked in on Drunk Grandma, and nothing has ever quite pleased them so much. So thank you for that iconic performance.
You're welcome, and it's well deserved. Drunk Grandma pretty much at least stole the first act.
And Vito, I think you have the distinction of directing and being involved. You've been involved, I think, with every production of A Christmas Carol in some form or fashion, because there are elements of sound that are still making appearances. Here we are, I think, heading into year 14. But you directed, was it 5, 6? How many?
5, 3 different versions, 5 times total. Yeah. Gotta love Christmas.
That's a lot of Cratchit kids, my friend. A lot of Cratchit kids.
It is. The Cratchits are very important.
They are indeed. It's all about the hot chocolate is what I remember. It's a lot about serving the cocoa and then putting the cocoa cups away. That's
right.
Yes. And teaching children how to drink realistically.
I can't wait for those days again. So my first question to each of you is, how have you been spending your time in quarantine? And I know, Jenn, we've seen you in some of our online programming. You both wrote a piece for our 24-hour theater project, but tell us a little bit more about what this has been like for you, what you've been doing. Jenn, go ahead and start. We'll start with ladies first.
Sure. So I continue to be really busy work-wise. So my day job in corporate America has not slowed. It's actually been quite busy for us. So that makes the theater excursions ever more necessary for me because my work life has been so stressful. So being a part of 24-hour project, I did one isolation radio hour, which was a lot of fun as well. And then I also participated in a different theater project for Shakespeare. They did a celebration for Shakespeare's birthday. So I got to write and perform a video produced piece with Andrea King for that one. So those have been really saviors for me, having little things to do with my brain and my heart and my life outside of work. The other thing I've been doing, I wouldn't say perfectly, but I think because my mental and emotional well-being is so uncertain because day-to-day things are challenging, I've been trying to be a little bit better about my physical well-being. So I've been trying to get enough sleep and enough water, kind of working out occasionally, which is not my jam. I used to tell people that theater was my yoga. Because it was like a way to like get outside your brain for a little while. But with the theaters not available to me, I have had to resort to actual yoga and other athletic endeavors. So that's upsetting. And then I have a dog, so I take her on lots of walks, whether she wants to or not. But really, it's just been about finding these little tiny creative outlets, trying to, manage my physical and emotional health and a lot of organizing of Zoom calls. I'm the person in my friends and family's life that makes them schedule Zoom calls, which I don't think is surprising, Vito, at all, that I'm the person that does that. So I've scheduled reunions for my college a cappella group, my high school friends, a bunch of family members. So it's been fun to have this excuse to reconnect with people and to know that they literally have nothing better to do than to hop on a call and reunite. Adam's Family might be up next. I do love my Adam's Fam, and we just had our anniversary of that show closing 2 days ago. So that might be coming up. Johnny's commenting Adam's Family, family first, family last, family by and by. So maybe that'll be our next reunion.
That'd be fun.
All right, you, Vito?
Okay, well, aside from creating content for you, which actually, like Jen, I'm grateful for, because it really has been helpful, and I'm sort of looking ahead to looking back. Will this work that's being created during this time somehow reflect what's going on with us? But that's been a lot of fun. In terms of what my life has been like otherwise, I'm still doing my life coaching, which because I do that from home and on Zoom and on the phone, has not changed as far as that goes. As far as everything else, that video that I did all by myself, this pretty autobiographical, although it's fictional. So that's basically sitting around, a lot of TV, and too many sweets, too many carbs, which has kind of destroyed my life, but probably more intense during this period. And walks, but even sometimes being outside is a little strange. And Phoebe, walking Phoebe a lot. She's actually going to be 14 and a half on Tuesday. So sometimes she's got some pep, and sometimes she doesn't. So we just kind of go with the flow. And yeah, that's about it. Ron is in Texas. Hello, Texas. And so it's been Phoebe and I, and it's, I think it's strange and different for everybody. I'm sure there are people who are with other people who are like, oh my God, I wish I was alone. And then of course, when you're alone, it's a whole nother thing too. So just taking it a day at a time.
Cool. You guys covered a lot of my other questions.
Well, we're out of time. It's been a wonderful
show. So I guess this is a little bit of a deeper question. Aside from obviously live performances in the theater community, which again, like we said, are a while, we're still a ways from seeing that happen. What are you seeing out there right now that is working successfully? Is there a void out there? Again, aside from live performances, is there a void that you're seeing in the arts community that maybe something that's not happening that you think would be cool to see happening? Talk a little bit about, some of the stuff that you're seeing or not seeing.
I think it's been really interesting to see, this sort of shorter form, fast to produce, ordinarily you hear that someone you admire is producing a musical and it's going to take 4 years or more for you to ever see it take the stage. So the idea that you can hear about someone working on something and maybe see it really soon, a short version of it, a preview of it. I think that sort of immediate gratification of artists and creators that you love is really exciting. I think even getting people to try things they've never tried. So, when I did one isolation radio hour, but it made me really think about voice acting, which I not that I was good at it. I'm not saying I was good, but it made me have to think about what my voice was as a voice actor, because you're not bringing your full self to the stage. So I think there's interesting challenges for performers and then creators and writers and certainly directors. But I really love the idea that if Broadway stays closed and playhouses stay closed, that we're not going to not have art. So these people are going to find a way to bring it to us, perhaps early and often. And I'll be ready for it. Even just getting to produce a couple 24-hour projects. They're not perfect when they hit the screen, but it's really fun to think that something magical can be made that quickly. So I think the idea of shorter form, more real time, more audience interactive content is on its way. That's really fun. But yeah, people aren't going to stop making stuff, as we've seen and as Theater Charlotte has proven. So I'm excited to see what some of my favorite creators do next.
Well said.
All right.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think in terms of content, alternative, different way of thinking, outside the box, kind of stuff is great and is needed. I think what's also needed, very importantly, is how to, quite frankly, make money off of that, because while the physical buildings may not be open, and tickets aren't being sold, the theaters are still going. And so so you people out there in the audience, and I don't know, what do you even call this, like Stageland or
I don't know.
Don't wait for the fundraiser, send that money in, because it's all got to be there when we're ready. It's nice to see a lot of plays streaming, that have been done in the past and so forth, because it's unique. I mean, you may still be watching it on a screen, but it's not a TV show and it's not a film, because it's still happening. It happened live. It was captured live, as opposed to something that, may have been done in front of a live audience if it was like a sitcom, but they still, use camera editing and stop and go and so forth. So I think that's good for people who would like to see those sorts of things. I know some people, feel like, well, that's not theater, but we've got to be resourceful, and I think we have to be open. I also think that the idea of creating, content, new stuff, is great. I mean, me, it's the just do it guy, especially for actors, make your own work. You don't, especially at a time like this, you can't wait for someone to give you a job or to give you work. So make your own. And, everyone's got a camera these days. So if it can't be live, you can, make a video or whatever. But yeah, I think we just have to keep on going and I guess be patient and be creative.
Yeah. And I think that was something that we touched on a little bit last week as well with our creative team, is that, there are a lot of outlets for performers, but there's maybe it's a little bit more challenging for some aspects of theater. But I think what we came away with was that the biggest advice is to just, don't, like you're saying, don't wait for an opportunity. Get yourself out there, design a play, regardless of whether it's realized or not. Go through that process and go through the exercises of just to keep yourself, keep those muscles going and so on and so forth. So my question I wanted to ask, and I think you guys have touched on this a little bit, but just maybe if there's something that you want to add, but how do you see theater being changed from this point forward? And, we talked a little bit about, and Vito, you mentioned, are we going to see a style of theater that's reminiscent of this time that we're in right now? Or are we going to see plays being written that are, a lot more two-person plays that don't involve a lot of physical contact and so on and so forth? So, that's kind of my question. And I'll start with Vito this time is, what do you see about theater being changed because of this?
I think it depends on when we're talking about. I mean, like, for instance, actors' equity, right? They're saying actors can't work. The union's saying no until everything is ready, until there's across the board restrictions, plans, so it's not just sort of piecemeal. And I think that those sorts of things are going to apply to, maybe not exactly, but to a lot of theaters. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the audience, and they have to be separate, but sort of the people on stage. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think smaller casts might be one thing. I think I was actually thinking, yeah, well, you could do a lot of like Greek plays and use masks, right? But I think in terms of, I think part of the issue is like planning, right? So how do you, because shows, you have to get all, I mean, you know, better than anyone, you've got to get the creative team in place, and then all that goes with that, and then the casting, the actors, not to mention rehearsal, and then performance finally. So I think if anything like that has to happen, I was thinking in terms of like if you were planning some sort of show that was going to happen rain or shine. So in other words, you'd kind of be ready for any conditions. And I guess if I were translating that to theater, it would be, okay, we're going to plan this particular show for an audience and actors that can be separated and wearing masks as needed. And we're going to cover, you know, everything from the entrance of the audience to where they sit, how they sit, and how they leave. And we're going to plan it for, you know, this weekend, 2 months from now, because who knows what's going to happen 2 months from now. But if we're in the same place with restrictions and people have to wear masks, we have that plan in place. If things have been lifted and they're better by that point, we can alter it. But I mean, in my mind, I don't really see how you can plan ahead without thinking like that. And I don't know when is the time when we're all totally ready and comfortable to be in that closed space. Even actors. I mean, even if the audience is separate, how are actors interacting on stage and moving around? So the last thing, this is kind of crazy, but it came to me last night when I was walking Phoebe and thinking about this question. I had this vision of Theater Charlotte where it's sort of theater in the oval. So you have actors separated by rows, sort of interacting, doing their piece in different rows through the length of the theater, and the audience is sitting on the stage and on the aisles on the side in those uncomfortable but beautiful folding wooden chairs that they get when they walk in the door, and that's like their chair, and it's marked exactly where they sit with the distance. The actors never get too close to the audience on the sides or to each other. I mean, like, because I was, we were talking about it recently, like, do you do it outside, which would also be great. So yeah, I think it just takes, like I said before, patience, creativity, and just, I guess, erring on the side of caution while also taking risks.
Right. Yeah, Jen? Well,
I thought about this a lot. You really seem to take it from sort of like a director and producer's mindset, Vito, which I admire. I thought about it a lot as an audience goer. And I would totally see a show in the Oval. I'd be happy to. But I think that to me is, I'm actually kind of excited to see what sort of intimate experiences happen in untraditional spaces or untraditional setups. Theater in untraditional formats has always really excited me. Everything from, major shows like Sleep No More in New York to some of the work that Paper House Theater does in Charlotte, where they take you into much more intimate, small, less than 40 people in the audience type experiences. And I think the audience format and the sort of proscenium stage and audience watching you, that's one of the paradigms that is undoubtedly going to be broken by this, because we have to find a different way to space people out on stage and also in the audience. So as someone who finds that really exhilarating to experience as a viewer and as an audience goer, I'm excited to see what people, smart people like you guys come up with. I'll be there for it. I'll buy a ticket. And then as a performer, I think the challenge of thinking differently about your performance and not having those built-in signals of intimacy and closeness with people on stage. How do you portray someone who's close to you without being able to touch them or be, less than 6 feet from them, if that's the guideline? I don't love that, but I think that as an actor, it's an interesting challenge. So I think everyone's going to rise to the occasion, and I think some really interesting stuff is going to be made as a result of this. Hopefully not all of it about the coronavirus. I'm not interested in seeing 22 plays about a pandemic. So that's my one.
We're not going to want to relive that on stage. We've spent months living that. It's nice to go to a theater and live in somebody else's shoes for a while.
Different, an allegory or something is fine, but maybe not so on the nose. That would be great.
Right, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into that. Let's dive into Quarantine the Musical while we're talking about not wanting to talk about
quarantine. This one started in March, so we're clear.
Right, we're good. So Jenn, I want to start with you. So your character, is it Vira S or Vira S? How do you pronounce your character's name?
I say Vira S.
All right. Tell us a little bit about Vira S.
So Vira, she, much like myself, she and I have a few things in common. I really found a lot to appreciate about her as a character. She's also a work from home corporate professional. So she really started out sort of productive and optimistic. I tried to embody some of that spirit in the audition video that I did, which was a remake of Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid, where it was clearly someone working from home and feeling a little energetic, but also a little bit manic about the circumstances that they're now in. And that's kind of Vira's journey. She starts out very sort of, pumped up and energized and sort of like, hey, this is different. We're going to work from home. How fun. I'm in my pajamas, like feeling very like the novelty of it all was very appealing to her. But over the course of Act 1, she really starts to unravel a bit. Like the loneliness gets to her, the routine, the monotony gets to her. The isolation really does start to affect her. And you really see it take a toll on her mental state throughout Act 1. And I do have actually one of her monologues from sort of later in Act 1, headed towards intermission, but not there yet. And I think what's interesting about her part in Quarantine the Musical is that you don't see a lot of long scenes with her. You see sort of check-ins with her at various points in her journey. And she does it sort of, it's sort of like, it's sort of Rent style, where Mark is sort of like, speaking directly to the audience and doing sort of like video diary style check-ins with the audience. That's kind of what you're seeing from Vira. So, and if you've got that queued up, we can see sort of midway through her journey in Act 1 where things are starting to fall apart.
All right. So here we go. Our first of 3 world premieres of Quarantine the Musical.
Hey, everyone. Quarantine diary day. Damn it, I don't know. I don't know what day it is, but I've got good news. I went out today just to Trader Joe's. It was brief, but oh my God, it felt so good to get out of the house, just for a little bit. The weather was nice. Sun was shining. It just really makes a difference, But anyway, I went to Trader Joe's and I was there waiting in line 6 feet apart for my turn to go in. And that's when I saw him. He was kind of across the way, very unassuming, kind of small, on the small side, I guess you could say. But like, we just had this instant connection. I could feel it. And I haven't felt anything like that in such a long time. Now, I don't know his name yet, but I think I'm going to call him Steve. This is him. Guys, I'm in love. I maybe need to connect more to some real humans. What do you think, Steve? Oh, God. Thank you.
So that's you sort of misled me. I was geared up for
geared up for romance. No, Vira's in no shape for any sort of romance. But I think that gives you a good indication of kind of where she's at mentally, dying to connect with someone, starting to feel like things are getting away from her, which is actually how she ends up connecting with Vito's character, Uncle Festering. Right towards the end of Act 1, she kind of has a mental break, and she's I can't perform it for you today, but there's a really great sort of 11 o'clock number where she's really losing her mind, and it's a lot of fun. But right on the verge of collapse is when she really feels connected to this other character by surprise. So I will cede the stage to my co-star, Vito, to learn more about how their characters are connected.
Thank you, Jenn. So, Uncle Festering. Well, first, let me say it's been a challenge working on this because as cast members, we weren't given the whole script, so we really don't know like the full story. But we're doing the best I can. So here's what I can tell you about Uncle Festering. He has actually returned the house that he and also Vira and others are quarantined in was his family home of many years ago. And he has not been there for 30 years. He's basically just kind of been roaming around. He left. Well, let me tell you what happened. It was his family home. He grew up there. He fell in love with his childhood sweetheart, Melinda Kroc, and from a very young age, knew that they were destined to be together. They were engaged for a very long time, about 15 years, and she really, really wanted a church wedding, but Festering insisted on not getting married in a church, but getting married at the house. Small detail with that, when he was being baptized as a baby, he nearly drowned. So it really put him off, with religion and so forth. So he insisted on getting married on the grounds in the background. Well, it was their wedding day, and very tragically, Melinda was stung by a bee. And unbeknownst to her at that point, she was highly allergic, and she died at the altar. And so that kind of sent Festering off in more ways than one. And so he returns to the house, but the house has since been sold and broken up into condominiums. So there are different people living there, and he doesn't have a place there. Okay, so setting up this clip that you're going to see, it's soon after he's arrived, and he finds something that he had kind of forgotten about, that he stashed away when he was a teenager. And since he does not have a place to stay, and no one knows he's there at that point, he's having to hide out there.
All right, so here we go. Our second clip from Quarantine the Musical.
My dearest Melinda, you are so beautiful to me, like a white whale on the sea. Your face, your frown, your dimples, your hair, your hands, your pimples. Like a baby goes with powder, like a clam goes with chowder, like a steak needs a knife. You are breath to my life. You have my heart, Miss Melinda Kroc. You are my anchor, my cinder block. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call. For a life without you is like no cages in the zoo. Soap without a rope, a Catholic without a pope. When I am sad, you make me glad. When I'm really tired, you make me inspired. When I am drunk, you carry me. Dear Melinda, will you marry me? Bloody grubhub.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's also when we meet Psycho the dog, which is the role that Phoebe wanted but did not get cast in.
She must have been really upset too, because she worked so hard for that audition.
Well, and that's why I almost kept her in the shot that she wandered into. But I decided to keep her out. Also, I had auditioned for the role of Stinky, as well as Dr. Fema. Dr. Fema didn't make it into the script, and apparently Stinky was made into Stinky Rob. But that's what happens in original pieces. Stuff just kind of comes and goes and develops. And so the script doesn't explain why Festering is Uncle Festering, but it's just sort of is.
So I think
you played another uncle at one point at Theater Charlotte not too long ago.
Yes.
I think the great set design in this show allows you to have these characters existing on multiple parts of this house. So you can see that Uncle Festering is living in this sort of Harry Potter closet under the stairs kind of space, and Vira lives upstairs. And a show I really loved the set design for was the Mary Poppins musical, when it was making its way through the West End and Broadway, and it had this sort of beautiful dollhouse of a set where people were moving upstairs and downstairs, and the roof could come off and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I imagine for Quarantine the Musical, is that the house is another character in the show. So I think it certainly plays a role in the relationship between Vira and Uncle Festering. They actually end up connecting through the air vents. So right as Vira is sort of at her lowest point and feeling really lonely and unheard, that's when she starts to connect with this voice that she hears through the air vents, and it saves her in a way. So I don't know, Vito, if you have other thoughts on our characters' connection before we go to our lovely duet.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. They just connect in this kind of unconventional way. But speaking of set, Chris, maybe you could share something about the set with us.
Well, I also had auditioned, and Tim Parati is actually our set designer on the show, and we talked a little bit last week. We're hoping that we can pull together some visual samples that we can showcase, but there's certainly some interesting ideas out there. And the interesting thing about this process, and this was something I wanted to kind of get your feedback on too, was from most of the time you get a script that is more or less complete, or I can't think of a show that I've designed that isn't produced or hasn't been produced previously. So for me to walk into a project like this and to work with Tim, and it's a show that's sort of evolving, and we're getting input from performers and our mysterious writers and director, which we're hoping to reveal here in a couple of weeks. But so that's sort of interesting. It sort of gives you like everything's on the table. I mean, you've got all of these possibilities. The biggest challenge right now is how do you make that work in the environment that we're in right now, where we're not performing live, but with the understanding and the expectations that we will be able to produce it live. But yeah, there's certainly the character development is just, as somebody who does design, that just makes you hungry for the possibilities, because there's so many ideas. And I for one, if you know my work, I like dark pieces. So I like, those mysterious background, characters and things like that. So, yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, so just very quickly, as we're talking about that, and Vito, you mentioned this, but what, as performers, for the two of you, what has been the biggest challenge so far with a piece like this?
It's just hard not to have the people that you're supposed to be performing off of. I mean, that's the best part about being a stage actor, right? Is that you have people that are with you in the moment, doing exactly what you're doing, tuned in with you. And you're all doing it without a net. And so I think that I miss that feeling a lot, both from scripted stage acting, improv, like that's the rush. And so not when you know you can have another take when you're recording video, I'm much more quick to get frustrated with my own performance or with details of how things look or feel. But when you do it live on stage, you don't ever know how it looked or sounded. You just have to do it once and live with it. So my own personal insecurities about being able to watch it back is really hard. And then also not having my co-stars, and my collaborators with me in the room to act with is by far the worst possible part.
Vito?
My turn. I would agree with that. And although I'm extremely happy to be part of this cast, in all honesty, I must say this is the most unorganized, all over the place production I've ever been involved in.
Really?
I mean, we don't even know who is the writer. Is it Leonard? Is he the writer? Is it
director in weeks? Yeah, nothing.
We don't know. When I was in Denver, there was a production of The Three Sisters, which was placed in the South, and nobody knew who the playwright was, but there were rumors that it was the artistic director. So I don't know. It could be a similar situation here because we have a play, but there's no playwright.
Have either of you, and again, maybe there's you've already mentioned this, Vito, but have either of you worked on a piece that is in development, such as this? I mean, obviously, you Just Do It, that program, those were all original pieces, and Jenn, we've talked about 24-Hour Theater Project and some of the other original pieces, but on a larger scale, have either of you worked on a theater piece that is developing, that's still being changed, even going into rehearsals and production?
Definitely not for a scripted show. Although I worked on the sort of sidelines of, or the production team of a paper house theater show here in Charlotte that was the Sherlock Project. And that was a devised piece. So they used, sort of the canon of Sherlock to create a play experience. And they were still, sort of editing and tweaking right up into the final days. And so I was only on the production team side of that, but seeing it come to fruition, and they were still sort of making choices about, which anecdotes were going to make it in and how the exchanges were going to be created using dialogue that was, really from the books, but then also adding in some devised dialogue as well. That was really exciting to see, though I wasn't an actor in that. And then also being a part of Descripted, which is a fully produced play that is entirely improvised, which I do with the Comedy Arts Theater of Charlotte, Catch. So that's a hybrid experience between full improv and a fully scripted play, where we follow sort of a scripted arc or an expected play structure, but none of the details, dialogue, or characters are decided in advance. So that is absolutely fully in development right up in time the time it takes the stage. But that's been a really interesting way to play around with the format of saying, like, what makes a play, and what makes an improv show, and how do you combine those two worlds so that people get a play-like experience that hasn't been written. So those are my two brushes with the developed play.
I can't think of like a full length really in terms of acting in it, but just for sort of tastes of that, with Just Do It, when I did City Queens, which was episodic, that wasn't all. I mean, those episodes were done one at a time. But it's one of the things that although it's not theater and live per se, but it's one of the things about working with the video is that you can really, manipulate certain aspects of it ad nauseum, to see, putting something here, putting something there, which you can certainly do to a degree on stage, except, actors get tired and rehearsal has to be called at a certain point. Whereas if you're, I guess as the writer too, or as the editor, you can just sort of keep going and going. But it is it is certainly fun and a challenge to just take something and jump off and see where you land.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think in a way, a lot of performers, you guys are now sort of experiencing the film side of things, the other side of the camera, so to speak. You're not getting that interaction with the audiences and you're not hearing that laughter. And that was something that I've sort of wondered, and maybe Jenn, you can respond because you were involved with the Isolation Radio Hour, but I've sort of wondered, should I put a laugh track in there? I mean, it's I don't know if that's something that would be beneficial for you guys. It's not the same obviously as hearing the reactions from the audience or hearing that candy wrapper open at the most inappropriate moment. But it's sort of given us a different, certainly you guys, a different take on things.
Yeah, I certainly think if live performance in a theater setting is what you love and what you're used to, that's the hardest difference here is just your cats and or dog do not provide the same theatrical audience experience that you wish they would. And it's only so much you can ask of your loved ones if you are lucky enough to be quarantined with others. There's only so much you can ask of them in terms of repeat reactions. And so I think for the radio hour, I think the style that you all have chosen of these sort of throwback stories from this golden era of radio, I think a laugh track wouldn't be out of place. I think, but I don't think it's not gonna fill the hole in my heart if that's what you're asking. But okay. Maybe it'll help with the audience experience.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wonder about, sports, without fans, making all of that noise. If it's just going to be like a quiet stadium or they're going to make, pipe in noise.
Yeah.
At least, but
I've been noise and cardboard cutouts of, right? Cardboard cutouts of an audience in there.
Yeah. I'd be happy to do some stuff for a cardboard cutout right about now. I'll take it. It's fine.
So we've got one more piece to show. What can we say before we lead into that piece?
So I think this takes place a little bit shortly after Festering and Vira have connected through the vents. They've become friends of an uncommon sort. And now they're having some daily chats. So this seems to be one of their daily chats that they're having to break the isolation monotony and connect with someone so that Vira can stop talking to plants. This is their new human connection.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's take a look.
Ever think about, well, I know it's silly, but sometimes I wish I lived at a TV show. Gilligan's Island. To be stranded, but not feel alone. Oh, I wouldn't be anyone important like the skipper. Just one of the rest. Stowaway.
I think for me, it would be, Mary Tyler Moore. She was just so fabulous. God, what I would not give to be going to the office and wearing pants. Such fabulous pants. Even with the misogyny, it would be so nice just to get out of the house and be me again. But I guess if I'm Mary Tyler Moore, that makes you Rhoda. My downstairs neighbor, just two girls. go out on the town, go somewhere, grab a drink, find some cool, fun bar. Oh, like Cheers. Oh, God. Oh, it'd be so fun to live in Cheers.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot.
Wouldn't you like to get away?
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
You want to be where you can see.
Troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Mine's Vira, by the way.
Nice to meet you, Vira.
It's so nice to meet you.
I had not seen it until just now, and it was everything I wanted.
So
Wow.
can I say that we did that? We didn't even talk on the phone.
Nope.
I mean, we had a few texts and some emails, and that was it. So we, let alone like interacting with each other.
No rehearsal. Zero rehearsal.
In the song, yeah. But it was great. It was great. It was like I had an idea, Jenn had an idea. It just kind of and it just happened, which was great. And there might be more. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
We got that bit now. It's connected all the time.
Oh, that Hank West.
Hank West, yeah. Sends us muffin. He must be putting on a lot of weight during quarantine, because every week in Isolation Radio Hour, he's sending us muffins. So you see that. But then there's rumor that it might be the same plate of muffins every week. So I don't know. So just to sort of wrap things up here, the last question that I have for you guys, are you going to be more excited to see a live show or be in a live show?
Let's just still face the voice. I don't know how to do that. Okay.
Well, definitely C for me. Mainly because I don't want to memorize any lines anytime soon. I want to see something. I want to see something.
Well, good. That works out, because I want to be in something. So we've picked both sides of the coin. But no, I miss. Talk about connection. I miss the connecting with a new cast of people who are bound to become your friends and your sort of lifelong memories. So making a new set of those is something I will look forward to immensely.
Great. All right, any other little teases for the show, for Quarantine the Musical? Anything else that you need to add to your characters?
We're working on Vira's mental breakdown musical number. So I think that's probably something that's in the future. And then I would also love to see the moment that Vira and Festering meet in real life, maybe outside in the real world at some point too. So,
yeah,
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Jenn, Vito, it's been great talking to you, both of you. Appreciate you guys being on the show. Love seeing the new work. What can I say? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great to be with you.
Thanks for casting us. We're so honored.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So that's going to do it for this week's episode of TC at Home. Be sure to tune in on Wednesdays at 7:30 for Theater Charlotte's Isolation Radio Hour, which are 1-hour classic radio shows performed live. We also have our TC Teachables on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock. If you're interested in aspects of the theater arts, we've got some great artists who are sharing their experiences and some lessons with you on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock. On behalf of everyone here at Theater Charlotte, have a great week. Good night.